Hi, folks. Welcome to part two of what seems to be the unending story of Russiagate. We're going on 10 years now, and we're finally getting some truth. So last week in part one, we're going to review that in a minute. We talked about the denouncement that Tulsi Gabbard made, saying she's bringing a criminal referral against Obama and all of his sphere of influence. But right now, we're going to jump into part two. And this first slide is my honest opinion. Agree with it or don't agree with it, but I honestly believe what you see here. I believe that the time is going to come, and I imagine the Democrats are pulling their ear out of my head if they're looking at this slide. Donald Trump is going to be absolutely cleared of all wrongdoing. We're going to find out that he really, truly is anointed by God, and that he truly, absolutely has the best interest of the American people at heart. And I think his picture is going to go up on that monument. So basically, I think his greatness, once we get our eyes open and know the truth about what's been done, his greatness is going to be unable to be denied. He will go on that monument. Let's go on down to the next slide, and this will take us back to where we were last week. We played this long clip from this where Tulsi Gabbard was basically making her criminal referral. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see two links. And I would encourage you, if you really want to get into the details, go play that clip if you didn't watch this last week, and then play the one under it. It's going to give you some additional information, because basically you want to know everything you can know about this. This is going to be in the news for months, folks. Let's go on down now. We're going to go to the next slide. And what I'm going to do, instead of playing that clip, I'm going to basically review what she said when she made that announcement. She said, prior to 2016, the story was what? That Russia had neither capacity or intent to change the outcome of the U.S. election. Catch it. No capacity, no intent. November 16 comes along and Trump wins the election. And oh my God, Obama has a coronary. And he says, we got to flip the story 180 degrees. So now we go to December 16th, and they're basically writing the narrative. President Daily Briefing pulled because it disclosed what you said a minute ago. The Russians had neither capacity nor the intent, and a whole new narrative had to be created. But they couldn't allow Trump to see it, so they held that daily briefing. Then we go to December 17th, and Obama directs, this one's important, Obama directs creation of, this is Tulsi Gabbard's words, a manufactured narrative that says, quote, how and why Russia interfered in the election. That's the creation of the false Russiagate narrative. Let's go on down to the next slide, and what we're going to see is that the coup begins. Discredit Trump and derail his agenda and to make America great. That is what Tulsi Gabbard herself called a coup. So it leads to a $40 million Mueller investigation, to 2 congressional impeachments, and to what she called, as I said a second ago, a coup. And now what we're going to do is look, this is going to be in the news for months, folks. But what I'm going to do is give you a broader story. I'm not just going to connect the dots on this story as it unfolds each day, but I'm going to take you back and forth into the past and into the present and into the future to unravel it. So let's go on down to the next slide, and we'll see basically a clip that is now current that basically tells us what's happening today. This is new news incriminating, somebody else. Let's play the clip.
Gabbard says that the evidence that she's uncovered and declassified shows that, in fact, Moscow believed it was inevitable that Hillary Clinton would win the election. And they had a whole lot of negative, compromising information about Hillary Clinton, including about her supposed psychological problems, that they planned to withhold from before the election, but launch on her to ruin her presidency after the election. So, as Tulsi Gabbard points out, it is crystal clear and logical that if Russia was trying to help Donald Trump, they would have dumped all their negative information before the election. And what this Russiagate lie did was discredit Donald Trump's 2016 win. It delegitimized his presidency, and it really sabotaged and crippled the rest of, most of his term.
All right, let's put this in perspective. Now, looking backwards, we can probably see that Donald Trump is probably the most bulletproof president we've ever had. He's the Teflon Don. No matter what they tried to do to him, he always come out ahead of the game, because really they had no real dirt on him. He wasn't a corrupt politician who had been in office for years and years and years and all kinds of things to hide. But by contrast, Hillary was. So let's just have a real quick review of her political career. I believe if you can go back far enough, you'll remember it started when her husband was the governor of Arkansas, and with what a little scandal called Watergate. And it just seems like there's a whole bunch of people who were involved in that ended up having mysterious suicides, like what we kind of heard with Epstein, which I believe in the coming weeks I'm going to show you probably really might not even be dead. But anyway, then what else did we have in her career? We find out that she has some serious health issues. There's a clip where she's being escorted to her car and she literally passes out and has to be put into the car by the Secret Service. And so basically Russia knew that, and they knew she was going to be like Obama. Biden. If she got in office, she would be incapable of basically conducting the duty of the president. So that was another thing they could hold after. Then there was the Benghazi scandal. And then there were 32,000 emails that got erased. And then right around that time, it seems to me, there was a fire in her house located just in the one wing of her house where the office was. So we're going to find out about all of that in the coming months, and we're going to find out that it was really Hillary who the Russians would have preferred to have in office, because they had the ability to sit back, do nothing, and when she gets in, disclose all that information and discredit her or blackmail her and puppet her. So basically the whole narrative is 180 degrees opposite of what we have been told for the last 10 years. The truth is about to set the American people free. And when it does, I'm going to be walking you through in the next several weeks the history that goes back, that shows once we've seen that this narrative plays itself out and we see that that election was in fact stolen, then I'm going to take you back in history that shows you that we haven't had an honest election for over 100 years. And more than that, there's some 72 other nations. They use the same playbook over and over and over again. They have operatives, they put them in, they destabilize a nation, they pay people to do protests, and basically they collapse nations and they control the elections. There's been 72 other nations that had their elections stolen. And what is that really telling us? It's telling us that a global shadow financial government consisting of the banks, of the corporations, and the politicians, which are basically funded by the monarchy that goes all the way back to the colonial era, have ruled this world for over 300 years, and they pull the strings of all of the major leaders in the world. So now let's go on to the next slide, and we're going to see, well, if they didn't want, the Democrats, they didn't want the agenda that Trump had to make, quote unquote, America great. Well, what was their plan? Well, wait a minute. I'm thinking, and I know my history. There wasn't one. So what do we have? We have a plan to discredit Trump, period. Nothing to make America great. No plan to make America greater, only plans to obstruct Trump. So Schumer boasts that the Democrats had appointed, are you ready for this? 235 liberal judges to obstruct Trump to make America great. So what do we have? Trump said, I got it all. I got it all. Mike Lindell said, I got it all. I got it all. And they said, oh, we're not going to hear your case. We're not going to hear your case. You have no standing, whatever. And so to this day, he has never gotten his day in court. But when he gets it, we're going to have our eyes so open, it's not going to be funny. And the truth is going to set us free. This is the bombshell we've been waiting for, that's going to release an absolute avalanche of whistleblowers that'll come out and show us that literally since we were first became a republic, the United States of America, when we won the Revolutionary War, the forces that want to control us have never given up trying to control and manipulate us. So what else do the Democrats have? They have filed over 165 lawsuits to obstruct Trump. Why are Schumer and his colleagues obstructing Trump's efforts to deport illegal immigrants? That's a new phase of what they're doing, because we've done some shows on illegal immigration in the past, and it's potentially up to 20 million people that have been brought in here to basically collapse us economically with all of the entitlements that we've given them, and to create basically a Trojan horse where at some point in the future they might just basically call up a whole network of terrorists and create havoc on America. And it's said of America, of any great nation, it will not fall from the outside, it will fall from the inside. So basically, that's part of the plan to make it fall from the inside. And this next slide is the other component of it, which is psychological. So as we go to this next slide, we see a quote that says that America is like a healthy body, and its resistance is what? It's patriotism, it's morality, and it's spiritual life. And then Stalin goes on to say, if we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from the inside. So we have an ongoing effort to create a very weak economically and weak morally America, and then to bring potentially massive numbers of terrorists in here to create chaos on the inside, and potentially a kinetic war on the outside and collapse America. America has been the ultimate target of the global financial elite because we're the only nation with enough power to ultimately, absolutely bring them down and restore peace and prosperity to the world. So we are their ultimate enemy. But folks, if you've been paying attention, we're winning this war, and America is going to get its freedom back. It's going to get its financial stability back. And when those two things happen, we're going to step in and we're going to do what we did following the Civil War. We innovated the Industrial Revolution. And once we got it all going, and we were announced on our centennial anniversary that we were the wealthiest nation in the world, we reached out to help other nations instead of to suppress them. So America has done some horrible things, but it wasn't the American people. The heart of the American people is with God. It was the global financial elite that had taken over and was puppeting our political system, our economic system, our banking system, our military system, and all the spheres of influence. So let's go down, and I'm going to show you this next slide. I'm going to be breaking it down in detail in the coming weeks, but at a very high level, this is what I want you to understand. This is the master plan for how the global financial elite control the United States and any other nation in the world. They create a war, bankrupt you, and then basically force you into their central bank. And it was Stalin, I think, who said that formation of a central bank is 90% of establishing what? Communism. So they get that central bank, and it's a debt trap because every dollar printed creates a debt. And so finally we get to where we are right now, where we can't pay the burden on that debt. We're paying $1 trillion a year in debt service, and we have $37 trillion national debt. We're at the brink of economic collapse, and control the natural resources. Why is that important? Because any great nation has to have the following. It has to have natural resources with which to manufacture goods that it sells and converts into money, and then that money is what drives the GDP of the nation and controls it. In this instance, and in the instance of almost every major nation of the world, at that point, the global financial elite insert themselves into the equation, and it is they who control the natural resources, the manufacturing and trade, take the money and buy the 8 spheres of influence, and select and groom what? Political leaders, judges. That's where they come in and take over the entire sphere of every influence and basically control it with money, with corruption, with blackmail, with murder, with whatever it takes to basically puppet the world and ultimately bring us into a one world global dictatorship. And finally, they control all of the 3-letter agencies. I've done shows in the past that showed that the CIA was embedded in our government as a result of World War II, and we needed a spy network. And it just happened that the Council on Foreign Relations, which is what? In favor of ending all borders and having open borders, which is exactly the crisis that we're facing now. They basically were the foundation of what started our FBI, our CIA, and all of our intelligence agencies. So we're going to go into that in detail in coming weeks. Right now, I want to go on what you might say, we kind of know this, but I don't think we really believe it. As we go to the next slide, we're going to come up with some very significant personalities and listen to what they have to say. Navarro basically says, here, I'll read it to you. The most important question in the 21st century economics may well be, what should we do with it? This is us, superfluous people, once we have highly intelligent, non-conscious algorithms that can do almost everything better than humans. The elite want to exterminate 7 billion of us. And if you don't believe that right now, I'm surprised. We had the Georgia Guidestones that said they wanted to bring the population down to 500 million. We have the UN documents that said they want to bring population down to about 1 million. And then we had what? We had COVID. And that was an out in your face genocide experiment. Let's go on to the next slide. And we're going to talk about Carl Schwab. And he envisions the fourth industrial revolution will create a new world order. And here's what he says. Schwab envisions a world where artificial intelligence, AI, has effectively what? Obsoleted mankind. It is a world where AI and robotics have taken over most jobs, and the elite no longer need us. So they are free to do what? Exterminate 7 billion of us useless eaters. I hate to bring these things up, but we really need to understand these people just look at us as if we're useless eaters, as we're basically parasites standing in their way of the utopia that they want, a world where there's less than 1 billion people, a world where they're in control of everything. We have to stop them. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to take you back to 2019, 2020. And is there anyone now who doesn't really understand that COVID was man-made? It was patented. It was released from a lab on purpose, and it was to lock down killing people. Yes, that was a big part of it, but it was to lock down the American people and the world and drive the whole world into the deepest debt it's ever been in, so they could trigger in the coming years their great financial reset and take over the world. And it was to assure that the election of Donald Trump could be basically interrupted by having thousands, maybe millions of counterfeit votes come in at the last minute, by having ballot harvesting, et cetera, et cetera. We had so many things that happened in that election that had never happened before, and they were all able to be done because of the lockdown of COVID. Now, we're going to go to this next slide, and this is really the important part here. Now, if you've gotten the idea that these guys really are our enemies, then here's what we have to do if we're going to get our freedom. So as we go forward, what I try to do is create the problem, magnify the problem so that it really, excites you and gets you understanding just how serious what we're facing is. And then I try to go forward and create some solutions. So we're going to find out how we get honest elections, sovereign borders, sovereign currency, freedom of speech, and manufacturing and trade. And all that put together allows us to prevent the takeover of the 8 spheres of influence and gives us back our republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Now, I'm not going to have headers as we go through for each one of these topics, but you'll see that they're all being covered in what is the remainder of this presentation. So now we go back to Chelsea Gabbard and we talk about the uniparty. And they wanted to make sure that allegations of voter fraud never got their day in court until now. Now they're going to, with what Chelsea Gabbard is basically releasing, we're going to get the truth, and the truth is going to set us free. Now let's go down to the next slide and we'll see what we're talking about immediately. We're talking about what? The Trojan horse. That goes all the way back into Greek times, the Trojan horse that basically appeared its head in the Benghazi incident and in the Arab Spring, when so many Muslims were sent into Europe, that now we're seeing that they're outbirthing the Europeans and basically now demanding Sharia law. That's what they're doing here. 20 million people coming in that basically can't afford to support themselves, that we, the American citizens, are supporting. And they're already rearing their heads in some cities and saying, we want Sharia law. That is nothing but a covert war to take America down from within. And let's go on to the next slide, and we'll see that basically they're just consistent in wanting to keep us from realizing our potential. So Donald Trump never gets his day in court. And remember, all those judges that they appointed, well, this guy's appeared a couple of different times, and he's now under, possible impeachment because he basically stuck his nose in where he shouldn't. And Democrats appointed judges have filed 16 injunctions in the first 72 days of Trump's second term. So we have judicial activism that is doing everything it can to see to it that Donald Trump never gets his day in court, that the voice of the American people is never heard, that basically we are shuttered and lied to. We're given on the news media a lie mixed with a half truth, mixed with an out and out lie. So we never know what's really going on. But basically, Trump did what? He invoked the Aliens Enemy Act, and it basically said, I can deport these people. And then immediately they stepped in with injunction after injunction to stop him because they want to keep those people here and have us in absolute chaos. The whole essence of what they want to do is order out of chaos. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to go through a bunch of wars that we've been in and show you that they have manipulated us with war since the foundation of this country. It's going to blow your mind when you see exactly what they've done to us and every nation in the world to keep us in a constant state where we are divided against one another, where one group of people is against another group of people, where one nation is against another nation. It's all funded by the global financial elite in order to do what? To control the natural resources of the world, the manufacturing, the trade, and the 8 spheres of influence. And that's the overarching playbook of the global financial elite. So as we go to this next slide here, what you're going to see is those are the 8 spheres of influence: political, banking, corporations, military, industrial complex, the educational system, media, entertainment, and the religion. Control those, and you control the world. You control the narrative. You create predictive programming so that we are so confused that we don't know what to do. So this next slide is going to show you exactly how they implement and execute this on us. This is a quote from Edward Bernays, the father of modern advertising. In every act of our lives, whether in the spheres of politics, our business, and our social conduct, or ethical thinking, we are dominated by a relatively small number of persons who understand the mental process and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires that control the public mind, i.e. predictive programming. So that is what they have done to us since basically the invention of the television. And let's have some evidence of what they've done. If you go to the next slide, we're going to see that they have attacked our morality and our basically fiber of our society. They brainwash us. They have the drag queens that are teaching our children in schools. They promote abortion. They've basically created an epidemic of drug addiction. They've pushed the family into absolute disarray, causing massive increases in divorces. They drive us into debt, and that debt creates stress on our families. And then we have a whole bunch of stressed out single moms and the women's movement to get the woman out of the home so that they can destroy the family. All of this has been done to us as predictive programming. And then, folks, if you haven't seen this, just pay attention. Look to what Disney's doing to us. Look at what the media is doing. That soft pornography that is basically inserted in what? In children's programming. I mean, take a good look at the smut that you're seeing on that screen and think, isn't that an effort to completely demoralize us, to completely take away what made America great, which was our patriotism, our family values, and our Christian values? We are under attack from every possible direction. And now we're going to get some more truth about how we have gotten into so much debt. So as we go to this next slide, we're going to pick up the Clintons again. And in this time, it's Bill Clinton. And what we see is that he championed NAFTA. And NAFTA, for those who don't know, was where America's national debt really kicked into high gear. It was an intentionally created debt trap where basically we lost money on every trade deal that we did. And that is why Trump now has to come in and create the American MCA and have everything that he is doing with tariffs, because he basically has to undo that. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to find out where all this kicked in. It was initiated by Clinton, but it was finalized by Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer who smiled, and everybody thought that's a good Christian. No, he was part of the plan too. I hate to say it. And what he was doing was basically facilitating the transfer of wealth from the United States to China, because the global financial elite thought, well, America is getting too big for its britches. It's too powerful. Well, they'd done that to us before when they basically orchestrated the Civil War to break America up into two pieces, but we won. And now they tried it again by basically taking our manufacturing base, which is the basis of financial wealth, and transferring it to China. So in 1977, Carter charged with opening trade with China to do what? To create the Rockefeller Files, which may be the most important story of our lifetime. The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies to do what? Create a one world government combining super capitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. That was by Congressman Larry McDonald. So what did he just say? He basically just said that they wanted a government that had the capacity, the ingenuity, the wealth building capability of capitalism, but they wanted it under a communist regime where they could put their thumb under it and control all the nations of the world. That's now being undone. Trump is pushing against that, and basically this is where the financial reset is going to see the tires hit the pavement. It basically, if China comes out of this head, which they are not going to, we would have the elite's version of the financial reset where we would basically become a one world dictatorship. But thanks to God, thanks to the intervention by Trump and that whole army of patriots, the outcome is going to be that the global financial elite are going to collapse and lose their money. And when they lose their money, they're going to lose their power. Let's go on down and dig a little deeper into just exactly what that NAFTA intentionally losing trade deal does. So when we go to this next slide, we're going to see something that's amazing. America was 200 years old, and all it had was a $660 million national debt, not even $1 billion. And once we went into NAFTA, if you look at the charts down there with Carter, by the time he got out, it was $997 billion. When Reagan left, it was $2.6 billion. When Bush left, it was $4.1 billion. When Clinton left, it was $5.6 billion. When Bush left, it was $10.7 billion. And then look at the really big jump. Obama, $19.5 trillion. If I said billions, I meant trillions. So bottom line is Obama, dedicated to collapsing America under a mountain of debt, created more debt than any of the 43 presidents that preceded him. And now all of that chain of lost revenue from tariffs and being under a financial system that creates debt out of the creation of every dollar has resulted in America having a $37.5 trillion national debt, being on the brink of an absolute catastrophic financial collapse. But folks, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. With what Trump is doing, he is revitalizing America. I believe it was the Chinese who recently said America before Trump was literally dead. And now, to their dismay, Trump has come back in, and America is revitalizing, and America is going to come out of this just exactly in the position it was within our centennial anniversary. We declared that we were the wealthiest nation in the world. What's he done? They're talking about the big, beautiful bill, and it's going to drive us into debt. Bullcrap. I did a show on that, folks. If you want to go back, it's a couple of weeks old now. But basically, just one point out of that bill, he has leveraged the position of America in terms of trade and in terms of manufacturing, and has commitments for $10 trillion of money to come in and build new factories. And remember, it's the factories that create the goods that are traded, that create the GDP that basically supports a nation. So Trump is taking us down the road to revitalization, the road to America basically getting out from under this debt. I believe that by the time he has left office, that through a number of things that are too intricate to talk about here, we are going to have most, if not all, of our national debt done away with, and America is going to be in a position of power where we, now a strong America, can come back in and help the rest of the world. So basically, we're looking at him creating what? Built in America, buy in America, the American invented the Industrial Revolution and shared that technology with the world, and it will do it again. So down below is a quote. The American economic system was the only system ever devised, the tendency of which was that of elevating while equalizing the condition of man throughout the world. So instead of trying to suppress people, to drive them into wars, to bankrupt the nations, to keep people from having a voice, America stood up for freedom, and it's going to do it again. America is God's chosen nation. We're almost done. We go back now for a quick review of what the Democrats are doing. So in this next slide, we see to it that what we saw in the beginning, that they basically have no plan to make America great, only plans to obstruct us. So I'm going to read this again. Schumer boasts that Democrats have appointed 235 liberal judges to obstruct Trump. And Democrats have filed over 165 lawsuits to obstruct Trump. So the whole agenda of the Democratic Party, puppeted by the global financial elite, is to basically keep Trump from waking the American people up from the truth that is revealed, opening our eyes and having us stand up united. Remember, in the Bible, it says a nation divided cannot stand. They cannot tolerate it if America sees the truth and our eyes are open and we stand up. And so the result of what we see is what I believe you see in this next slide. They have doomed their party. And remember, there's a lot of misinformation going on. So basically, people are out there saying, Trump has fights with all these people and they leave. Look what's happened with Elon Musk and so forth. I believe that Elon Musk creating this new party was simply recognizing the demise of the Democratic Party. And when we get to the next presidential election, the Democrats will probably be defunct, and we have to have a second party. We don't want to have a single party because that leads to a dictatorship. So basically, they lie, they confuse, they collude. Can we go to this last slide here? And it says, "The truth will set us free." So I'm calling you to recognize that Trump is called by God, that he's protected. He has an army of angels surrounding him, and it will be Donald Trump who leads this nation, but it will be God who orchestrates the supernatural events that give us the freedom that we have been waiting for and leads America into its destiny to lead the world back into a harvest of souls that has never, the likes of which has never been seen. Christ said that we would do those things that he has done and even more. So we're on a path to basically turning the entire world around and having a harvest of souls. That's what this is all about. So that takes us to the last slide in this presentation, and that's basically to say that now is the time, the appointed time, where we either fall on our sword or whether we win. We're on what Sun Tzu calls on death ground. And what we need to wake the people up, because what we cannot afford is to go through these arrests and see these people put in jail or tribunaled, and basically it causes what? An internal conflict in this country that leads to civil war. So we need as many woke people as we can. This book was ordained by God. For those who follow me, I died in 1968, and my entire life has been preparing me for this moment. So what this book tells you is their whole and complete entire game plan. What made America great, how we've lost it, how it's been taken away from us by these evil people, how we're getting it back right now. And once we get it back, how we keep it. We need to keep it because we need to have a very, very, very long time where patriotism stands, morality stands, and all the things that made America great can be exported to all the nations of the world. And we will have the reset that God intended. We will have not only an exodus of one nation, but we will have the releasing of the chains of slavery on virtually every nation in the world. So with that, we'll go into part 3 next week. Thank you for joining us.